Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to episode 91 of the Sin Savage Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. Join you as always with myself, Ewan Ramsey, and my very calm the co-host Alan Scrimger. Alan, how are you doing, good sir? Are you well? Are you calm? Are you mentally zen, sir?
I'm not sure
No.
I can be, mate. For context, I've just literally got home from that absolute shit show today against Motherwell. So
Absolutely, sir. And
normally,
sorry,
normally we
Alan,
do a
please.
little. So no, I was just going to say normally we have a little break between the game and then recording, and I've normally mellowed, but I've not mellowed.
Literally, it took like about what, like 30 seconds from us actually was it coming on and just being hiya, you all right, and then just straight into it because we can't take the shite anymore, as I'm sure that most of you will agree as well. So as Alan just said, we're literally recording 10 minutes after full time against that atrocious performance against Motherwell, where we have lost a goal to nil, which has put us 4 defeats on the bounce in the space of 14 days. So we will also talk a bit about the exit from the Conference League, but not that it'll do the much good. But obviously with us very more focused on the um, was it like in the league with this performance that we've just seen, and the away performance to Dundee as well last week. It's not a great sight to see, so we will talk a bit about that. We would usually say as well that was at the end of the podcast we will bring you like a preview, but think Alan pointed out that we've never been more excited to have an international break. Not to watch any was it of the international games, but not to actually watch any of that shite that we've been seeing on the park in a Hearts was a jersey. So again, we will keep you up to date if we will do like a podcast next week. But until then, you're about to hear a very, very ranty episode. So we do hope you enjoy. But as always, guys, before we get started, if you want to get in contact with us via our socials, please feel free to do so. All will be on screen and in the description as always. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet as well, please think about subscribing. And yeah, we do hope you enjoy. And if this brings you any sort of venting process while you're watching, we do hope you enjoy that as well. So, Alan, as you just said there, we're recording 10 minutes after full time at Tynecastle. Um, you they got to go to the game, like unfortunately. And as we said as well, it was like an away defeat to Pauk in the Conference League as well, which was no huge. Was it a surprise? Given the golf and the quality, let's just say as well. And obviously, as I said at the start, a week beforehand, was it like a defeat to Pauk at home, and also the defeat on the road when we went up to Dundee. So obviously, we will talk a wee bit about the both games as well, but as a whole, Alan, obviously, you and me were touching on like on this week, just by we're messaging each other, what seems to be the recurring issue and the recurring theme as well throughout these last few games as well. Why we seem to be just sloppy, from the get go, no sort of forward drive to get sort of up a gear throughout the first half of any game we've done. It just seems to be like again that old sort of the reaction where going back years ago under the Robbie Nielsen, where we would have to go have to go down a goal or two for us to actually give some sort of response, and it seemed to kind of have that recurring theme throughout
Mhm.
the start of this season. So just from your point of view, sort of as you sit now, what's your thoughts, mate? Where do you think it's gone wrong? Who among the many faces you want to point the finger at, please fire away, sir. And if I have to stay
Oh,
quiet throughout the whole podcast, not a problem, sir.
do you know what it is? And I don't know, like, I like to give people time. I like to be patient. I like to say, oh, I can see the plan, I can see the situation. And we spoke, I'm sure it was in our end of season podcast or last year's end of season podcast when Robbie Nielsen was no longer in the job and Naismith was given it full time just before we did that. And I can't remember, I think it was Graham that said it might well have been a case of going the cheaper option and maybe, you know, doing it that way. And I'm not saying I disagree with that, but there's obviously an element of truth to that because Naismith was already there. Um, and yeah, look, I'm not blaming him entirely. Far from it. In fact, I think everything that could possibly go wrong at the moment is going very wrong. I don't know. I mean, my own personal view is the system is not working with the players that we have. I don't like it. As much as Natty has had a decent start to the season, playing that sort of inverted role, we're not Man City, we're not Arsenal. We don't have to play fancy football. And for me, I mean, you could say it about all the games this season, and like the management team talking about patience and all the rest of it. And they're right to talk about patience. I'm not saying for 1 minute that we should be scoring straight off the bat, but start games with a bit more intent, and we're not seeing that. Be it home or away, we're not seeing it. The best game we've played so far this season was Rosenborg at home, and even then,
Mm.
you know, there were flashes when we weren't very good. But yeah, it's I think, and it might just be reaction to the fact that I've just sat through 97 minutes of utter garbage. But I just think lots of things, and all the players and management, and probably board level as well. I'm not saying they should be targeting Naismith now because it's incredibly early, but you know, you go for a cheaper option, you go for an inexperienced manager that is not proven at this level, you're going to have little bumps in the road. And that's maybe what we're seeing, and
Mm.
that's me being as polite and calm as I can possibly be right now.
Good job, sir. But no, like I mean, you're right though. Like in that same sense as well. So obviously, you know, when it was announced, like that Frankie would be like the first team coach, it was a Naismith would be the technical like sort of director, and then as soon as we get put out of the qualifiers, Frankie McAvoy then suggests that there may be a structural change in the management team. Like what I mean now, like we all like sort of knew that was it that Naismith was in charge. Like what I mean, but and for all as much as I get like if the like if the like was it if the management team had a meeting with the players beforehand saying, right, this is what we're saying, however this is what it actually is. So
Yeah,
like I mean, for an example, like when I watched the Pout game, you know I didn't see was a Naismith like sort of on the touchline all that much, whereas like Frankie was like constantly there, and then for this afternoon, I didn't actually see Frankie on his feet
no,
once. Like what I mean?
yeah,
So
no.
do you think maybe that's a given like sort of like a mix, like was a message, what was it to the players, was it even the fans as well, because like as you said as well, like it can be put down to one particular person, like with the fans blaming Naismith, was it Frankie, granted, like it is like a group effort, but do you think maybe that's maybe an element as to why we've been like a bit sloppy and shite throughout this start like the season? Like with just like your younger players, especially seeing as we've got a few like in through the door and in the squad as well. No.
Hmm. I think it's an interesting point. Like Frankie, after we won the opening game of the season away in Perth, which feels like a lifetime ago, and it wasn't even that
Aye,
long ago.
actually, that's
Um, It does. It feels like forever ago. But 90 minutes as a Hearts fan feels like a lifetime at this point.
True up.
Um, but no, Frankie said after the first game that, when we won, okay, we weren't overly impressive, but we
No.
won. And he came out basically saying, nobody questions the management structure when you're winning. Nobody mentions it because you're winning. So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
who's shouting instructions at people because you're winning.
Mm.
When you're not winning, when you're not playing well, that's when the questions are getting asked.
Yeah, of
And
course.
the questions are right to be asked.
Mm.
Like the club, and listen, everybody knows that, Frankie was manager because Nazy doesn't have his badges and all the rest of it. And I understand that. I totally understand that. It was a loophole to get us through the European campaign and say, right, Frankie's the name on the team sheet that's listed as the head coach or the manager or whatever. But it's a three-man brain trust that's really behind the scenes pulling the
Mm.
strings. But I just there's a lot of it's cloudy and I don't
Yeah.
like it. Um, the other thing that I wanted to say that I kind of touched on last week, at the end of last week's episode, was we saw at the end of last season the way Naismith wanted to play,
Mm.
and we saw good attacking football. Playing on the front foot, taking risks, not giving a toss. Just trying to play forward and hit shots when you have a chance to hit a shot.
Yeah.
And we were all, or majority of the fan base, were all very excited about that
Mm.
and saying, based off the football on the pitch, Naismith should be given a shot because you know what?
Yeah.
He had a decent go at it. We played all right. Okay, I think he got what, 2 wins at the end of the season in the split, which
Yeah.
isn't particularly brilliant. But you're looking at it going, style of football. We've played that way the whole season. That's good. That's
Yeah.
positive. And then you see the way we've started this season, we're probably lucky. Like I think in one game last year, I think against was it County at the end of the season when we absolutely battered them.
Mm.
We had something like 30 odd shots on goal. I think you'd be lucky to add up all of our shots on goal in every game so far this season and hit
Right.
30, to be honest. And I don't know what's changed. I don't understand if, maybe there's the cynic in me that goes, oh, Naismith was using those last few games of the season as an audition to get the job. Now he's got it. He can't believe his luck. I don't know. And I don't want to put the blame at Naismith's door completely because it's not. It's absolutely not. But I just think the system that we're playing at the moment, and I said it before, the system that we're playing at the moment, to my mind, is just far too complicated. You know, you're asking your fullbacks to cut in and be inverted. And I watched it today. The number of times that Natty Atkinson got the ball and the wing in front of him was clear. There was nobody else on the wing. He could have just sprinted down the wing. He cuts inside into space. You're like, what are you doing? And Cochrane's doing it on the other side as well. So anybody that wants to bash Natty Atkinson, feel free because today was garbage, but nobody was good. Nobody was good today.
No, Alan,
And
because
that's
sorry,
that's the
you continue.
concern. That's no, I'm just saying that's my concern because I like it's a nice system when it works. When it works, it's nice to watch because it means you can get an extra player forward, etc., etc. But I don't know about you, but I would rather pay 25 quid to go and watch Hearts win ugly. I don't, you know, it's a win. I don't care about, oh, tiki taka football. Like, no, I'm not arsed about that. This is Scottish football. Like, you keep it simple. That's what Motherwell did today. That's what Dundee did against us the other week. Teams keep it simple up here. If you try and do something flashy and fancy, they'll just sit 10 men behind the ball and go, all right, well, you have all the possession you want, but we're not going to let you score. It's
Yeah.
exactly what Motherwell did today and exactly what Dundee did weeks ago.
Yeah, Alan, I mean, just to kind of add was it to your point as well. Yeah, like I do think there is an element of maybe trying to make it over was it complicated as well. Like I mean, just like was it as another example. Like I mean, you know, the first two games, like in both like St Johnson and the Kelly at home, when you're seeing like stats like sort of flying about after the first few games, like like things like well, they can like winning all like his aerial duels. Us not like can see them from set with the pieces from the corners, etc. That's great. Like that is great to see. However, just going off of was it today, and I couldn't actually fathom both it was both it was a Laurie and was it Jimmy Sanderson saying it, but 16 corners Hearts had, right?
Yep.
16 corners, and not one of them dented at the fence. Like
Nah.
literally nada.
Yeah.
So like
I know.
that again as well. Just going back to simple things as well. Why are we not like addressing this? This has been a thing for years.
It's
Like we had the
yeah.
conversation, like last year and probably the year before that. The only time that I ever got excited when it was a dead ball was when it was in a reasonable like sort of view was of a free kick for the Kingsley, thinking right
Mhm.
we may have a chance here. But anytime we get a corner anywhere, I don't feel like right like he might score because we might do that the same way we did last time, and that like nothing puts me like in the confident zone, was it like if you will, every time we had get a corner, yeah, that amongst other things. But if you're not gonna, like you said, Alan, it's the simple things, like you said, like it's Scottish football, like it's never ever was it going to be like your was it like your was it Premier League, was it was it La Liga, League One? No, it's going to be thrashing, bashing, was it Scottish football. But
Yeah.
we can't even do the simple things right. And you know, even for the Pout game, like yeah, like we all knew that it was going to be one outcome. Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But when you're giving away the goals as easily as we did, like the third one,
Yeah.
in the second half, where we've got five guys back and there's only two Pout players, and the way that like just as an example, like it's not to just pick him out, even though we should be picking him out, but Kairos just gets pushed, breeze so easily, and there's just
Hmm.
no effort. There's no fight to get with it to the ball first. And
No.
like again, I don't understand where is the drive, where is the urgency, where is that sort of with a Naismith esque foot right up the arse? Was it attitude? Because even though we won the first game, it really wasn't Vincent like at all, as you said.
No, no, it wasn't. You're right. And I think this is the thing, like, wanted to talk about as well. Like, today, like, you're talking about set pieces and stuff.
Mm,
Now, we obviously, Alex Lowry played today.
mm,
Um, my least favourite Hearts player at this moment in time. I'm not shying away from saying that. He was an empty jersey today. He wasn't the only one, but he was an empty jersey today. His deliveries were absolutely horrendous. Um, like you said, 16 corners,
mm,
probably 15 of them either got caught by the goalkeeper or didn't beat the first man.
mm.
And that's not good enough. Like the deliveries were horrendous.
Yeah.
And then we're going short. We're playing short corners. I'm like, why are we playing it short? Just get it in the box. Like Motherwell are quite a big, strong physical side. Like the number of their players, they're quite beefy at the
Yeah.
back. They've got big, strong lads.
Mhm.
But I would hazard a guess to say that our team, in terms of average height, has probably increased since last year.
Yeah.
So, you've got Frankie Kent that, as the song goes, if he sees a brick, he'll head it back. It's right. Why does he not head it in the box, in the fucking opposition box, as good as he heads it in our own box?
I
That's
know.
what pisses me off. The man has a 50 pence head when he gets into the opposition box because he was trying to get onto them. He
I
was trying
know.
to get onto them, and he got onto one and hit off the side of his head and went wide. There was another one that later in the game that Tagawa had. I can't remember if it was a corner or a cross, but ball comes in and he's got to score it, and he just gets his header all wrong and it goes out. But it's just like you say, and it's the simple things. It's the simple things that are just not coming off for us. And today, and I'm going off today because obviously it was the most recent game. Like
Uh-huh.
Pauk, I can kind of, I'm not saying I can excuse it because you can't excuse it because it was embarrassing to lose by 4 goals. But, we said it last week that it was going to be an incredibly difficult game,
Mhm.
near on impossible considering Pauk's home record, which I didn't realize was as good as it is. I think they're unbeaten in like 20 odd games or something at home.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so I wasn't overly surprised about the result against Pauk. The manner of the loss was annoying. But today it just brings it home,
Mm,
so to speak. It brings it home to
mm,
Tiny.
literally.
Um, it does, I. And as I say, the set piece deliveries in general. I don't know if Alex Cochrane has been watching Stephen Kingsley take free kicks in the last few months because they're both just as bad as each other.
Yeah.
I don't know, like obviously you talked about a Kingsley free kick being a moment of hope.
Mm,
Obviously Kingsley went off with a bad injury against Pauk, so I'm not sure how bad he is. Didn't play today, obviously didn't feature at all. Um, but yeah, Alex Cochrane and Stephen Kingsley should no longer practice free kicks together because they're taking them. Like Alex Cochrane stepped up to take a free kick today, and it was towards the end of the game, and I just thought this looks like Kingsley. This looks exactly like the way that Kingsley takes a free kick.
hmm
And what happened? He just rattled it into the head of a Motherwell player, and it didn't even get through the wall.
mm,
It's as you say, these things, corners and free kicks, they're free chances at having a goal.
yeah.
Like get people in the box, like, and you never know. You might, make the goalkeeper make a save. He might parry it out, and then you can tap it into an empty net. Simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there are lots of things, and as I said at the start, it's without wanting to be too reactionary
Yeah, of
because
course. I get you.
obviously I've just sat through absolute shite, so I want to come on and have a rant about it. But I like to try and kind of see through things and see a kind of bigger picture of things. And I'd love to sit here and say that it's a case of it's a new team that's been brought together by a new management team learning a new system. And that might well be it. That might well be it. But before I kind of hand it back to yourself,
Mhm.
the thing that gets me, I watched Stephen Naismith's interview before the game, and he said, we need to be on it from the first whistle. We need to be at it. We can't be looking at individuals. We've all got to do it together. We've all got to be at it because the fans demand it. We've all got to be at it from the first whistle. The first whistle went and nothing happened. Like the words are there, but they just seem empty. And I hate to say that because I really want Stephen Naismith to work, and it
Oh,
might
of
work
course. Yeah.
because we know what our board's like. They're not Hibs. They're not going to sack him after 3, 4 games. That's not going to happen. But you get to that point where you go, something needs to change. And I don't know what it is because
Mm,
they're not going to sack the management. Let's be clear. They might well say, right, Frankie McAvoy, get back to the youth team, take your stopwatch and whistle and fuck off back down there because there's too many voices, maybe. I don't know. But something needs to be done and it needs to happen because the fixtures we've had at the start of this season
yeah, we
was
should have
meant to be a good start.
steamrolled it. Yeah, aye.
Yeah, like 4 points from 12 domestically. Like I'll take Europe out of the equation completely.
Mm,
4 points from 12 domestically is not good enough. Simple as that.
shite, yeah.
It is shite.
Like, I mean, like you could understand if it was, well, I mean, yeah, granted, if you had, was it like the old firm, like sort of thrown in to the mix there, then you can maybe like excuse it. But, you know, like, St. Johnson, right, okay, cool. Was it Killie at home, Dundee away, Motherwell at home? These are games that you should be expecting. Like, yeah, look, we've talked about this. Sorry, pardon me. Like, we've talked about this constantly. Like, look, there's no team that should be expected to win. Yeah, like, whether based on form, like you can say, like, oh, they have a better chance, like of well, they could getting the 3 points. However,
Mhm,
again, like when you've got the third biggest budget in Scotland coming out of the fans' own the pockets, let's be clear, right?
mhm,
How's it being managed? And like again, I know we're saying this now based on the was it like the rawness that we just seen. However, you know, I just like look like we said that we're gonna was a talk about this. Now we may as well like sort of go into this because obviously, as you said, there is hopefully like a bigger picture to this. So going back as the transfer window ended yesterday or the day before, we you and me were talking about it, like you were saying, like how has our transfer window actually been? And we thought, oh well, like it might be was something good to actually talk about. Now, when it comes down to the transfer windows that we've had since Savage has been here, like obviously, you know, as like as the point that you made as well, like like about Rosa Frankie, when you're like you're doing well in games and you're running games, the management team doesn't get like was it highlighted at all. But and this is like again not to go through everyone that I can go fuck you, they're shite, fuck you, blah 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 blah. No, but
Mhm.
it's the spotlight has never really been shown on, like if you will, on a Savage as well. Now it's not to go on a rant like against him because some of the signings that he's brought through have been great.
Yeah,
Was Shanklin being the perfect example, the perfect
yeah,
like example.
Mhm.
However, when you're saying that you've not really been particularly like impressed by it was a Lowry, Neuenhoff's not had much of a chance to prove himself.
yeah,
Obviously, like we brought through was it like was it Shanklin I don't know how much involvement he had like during the championship was season as well, but hey ho. So literally throughout these last three was seasons, and in terms of the players that were brought through, obviously, like as you said as well, you're not a huge fan or like of Lowry, like as well. Everybody's got their own was views of players, like but
yeah.
do you think that maybe a lot of that has came down to the signings that we made, and do you think maybe there's a perception of maybe if if it's Naismith, if it's Robbie Nielsen, if it was a McAvoy that said I want this player, or like a case of we want this kind of player, and maybe it like it's down to Joe was Savage to actually say right this particular player I think
Yeah.
will match what you actually think. So do you think that there's maybe not enough kind of with the communication in that sense where, you know, like if Naismith is saying, I want that particular player, name was it team address,
Mhm.
was it get him here, or like more of
Yeah.
a case of I want a wing back who can run or this and that, and like you know what I mean?
I think it's an interesting one because we know for a fact that Lawrence Shanklin was Robbie Nielsen's dream signing. Like
Yeah.
there was, I'm sure I read or heard somewhere Savage basically saying, I spoke to Robbie, I asked him who he wanted, if he could get anybody, who did he want? And Robbie said Shanklin.
Mm.
So, Joe then went away and got it done. So there's obviously elements of that in there, but whether Naismith's been asked that question, I don't know, because obviously Naismith is very early on in his managerial career, and I think
Mm-hmm.
Naismith is kind of turning more towards the youth players that we have because those are the players that he knows.
Yeah.
And we saw the various youth players that got signed up to longer term contracts over the summer. That would have been on the advice of Stephen Naismith saying, Aidan Denham was told he was getting released. No, sign him up, give him a contract.
Mm.
Like he's staying, give him a contract. Because those are the players that Naismith knows. I do think there's the element of like, as you say, like saying, "Look, I want a player that can do this," and then Joe goes away and speaks to his scouts and his recruitment people, and they run some numbers and find players, and then give that information back to probably Joe and Stephen Naismith, because every time, like during the summer, they were talking, they were doing little clips and stuff, and it was, oh, Stevie and Joe are working on signings. That's their remit, because it is, because Stephen
Yeah.
Naismith is the manager, so of course, well, he's the long term manager. Um, and that's, yeah, but I think it's funny because we've spoken about this before, and in terms of transfers, I also remember them saying not that long ago about, we'll make signings, but they won't all be messy. So you have to appreciate that maybe not every signing is going to work, and not every signing is going to be a world beater, because it's Scottish football. We can't attract finished articles
Mm.
to Hearts ultimately. And I've said it before that every player that plays at Hearts has a weakness in their game,
Mm.
because if they didn't, they wouldn't be at Hearts. It's as simple
No.
as that. But yeah, the transfer windows in general, I don't know, and I'd be interested to hear what you think and what people in maybe comments and Twitter and all the rest of it think. I don't know if our squad is any better than it was last season, personally, in terms of players we've let go and players we've brought in. Yes, it's early days for a lot of those players that have come in. So I'm not throwing them all out the door now saying, nah, he's not good enough, because
Mm.
it's very early. And a lot of them have come from different corners of the world, so it'll take them time to settle. But a squad as a whole, I don't know if we're any better than we were last year.
Yeah. I kind of get what you actually mean. Like, I mean, I think, I think you can maybe argue that the biggest player that we lost during the summer was arguably was it probably Josh was it Janelli in that respect, like so to replace him like identically would be like was quite hard to actually do, but
Yeah,
I think there's an element of truth to what you say, like when you're going like for like, because obviously like the core of the squad is mainly the same, from
yeah,
last year. However, like as you actually said, doesn't like with the return of Boyce, um, and like just sort of Benny as well, like not like sort of played as much, but the majority is very much the same now. If you are going to go for like I mean, just to do it with it quickly now, obviously that's down through injury, but Xander Clark against was it Craig Gordon? Like I'm sorry, like Gordon wins that all day long. In
yeah,
terms of performances from the back line, again, roles, like that's a whole nother conversation
yeah,
that we're gonna have like in a wee bit. But by fuck, I don't know where that boy's head went to. Like seriously, like mentally,
yeah,
physically, or if it's just a case of he's just not on it. I'm sorry,
mm,
like I've never like look, I like Mordecai roles. I honestly do because we've seen
yeah,
again what it can do, but it comes back to what like we both said. As soon as the player, any player around the world, right? As soon as they get their name on that new like extended was a deal on a contract, they just straight away just seem to just was a down tools. Like Barry Mackay was an example like that. Josh Janelli, obviously, like he didn't know if he was going to be was it going or not, but throughout the end of last season, mate, he was on fucking fire.
yeah,
And Rose did the exact same thing. As soon as he got that 5 year deal, boom, straight down.
mm-hmm,
So again, I don't know if it's just a like a mental capacity just to keep that drive was it going? Like I
mm-hmm,
mean, like again, like yeah, we've had the brought in Kent. I'd say arguably he's probably the most solid signing we've had. I don't think he's
yeah,
done much wrong. I think he's actually been
no,
very well. Obviously, like
yeah,
both was it the Vargas, was it Tagawa. I think they've got to be given individually a wee bit more time to actually
yeah,
show what they can do. Neuenhoff,
mm,
the early signs,
haven't seen him.
like it was a bit of like, yeah, like what I mean. It was like,
Yeah,
all right, okay,
yeah,
cool, like
yeah,
um, but if you're putting it into perspective as well, yeah, like I mean, you could argue that it's like for like it might not be much better. Yeah, granted, it might not be much worse either. But I mean, just to hand that was a question back. Yeah, do you think it's any better or like or any worse than the squad from last year?
I don't know if it is, to be honest. I really don't. I think, like you say, Frankie's done a good job, or Kent, that is, not McAvoy, before anybody shouts at me. He's done a
Well, I was
bang
about to say, I
average
thought
job.
massive U-turn there, Alan.
He's done a bang average job. Yeah, like it's there's clearly new players that are coming in that are coming in as first team players
Hmm.
that need time to be able to show that. Like today, Tagawa came off the bench, looked decent, made some good runs. I was watching him. He made a few good runs, but his teammates just didn't find him, didn't look for him. Vargas looks a nippy little winger who could do very well in Scottish football. I was actually very surprised that he was dropped from the starting 11 today. I thought he was the best player against Pauk, to be quite honest. Um, but yeah, I think it's fair to say that Frankie Kent is the best signing that we've made this window, and that is not really a surprise because of where he's come from.
Yeah.
You know, he's come from the lower leagues in England where it's physical and strong, and you've got to be a big guy. He's come up to Scotland and he's just carried on. Like I know, briefly before I hand it back to you, I know a Peterborough fan at my workplace, and he frequently asks me about Frankie Kent. He says, "Oh, how's he doing? How's he doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's doing really well." And he said he was like, "Well, we're not missing him, but it's because he was like really good. We were gutted he left." And it's like he's got that about him. He's got that experience. He's 27 as well, so he's not a young guy. He's been around for a while,
Yeah.
and that obviously shows. And the other players that we've signed don't have that, because I think Tagawa's maybe 24, and I think he might even be the oldest one that we've signed. Neuenhoff, I'm not going to put him in because he's barely kicked a ball yet. But yeah, I don't personally. I don't think it has got any better than last year. Different, but not any better.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting one as well. Like, I mean, was it as you said as well? Like, I think if we were to put it up onto what was it, was it Twitter as well? I'm sure that like the rantiness would was continue for the next was a few days, like especially with the international break. But you're right though, Alan. Like, see, like I mean, throughout the last few breaks that we've had throughout the last few was seasons as well, to like ride it out with a win to keep the momentum going. Like when we do come, was it come back? Like it's the great touch you have, but like again, this like there's also a part of me that doesn't want the break as well, because obviously,
Yeah,
like teams, yeah, like look, it's still rare, like it is still relatively early, like in the season, but it was just what you said about the Pout game as well. It's the manner that we've lost these games or we've drawn these games. And
yeah,
honestly, mate, like, I mean, if we're ever going to make any merchandise for this well, the podcast, slow, sloppy, and shite, mate, that's going to sell. 100%
it
is
will.
going to sell, But, like, as we were talking, like, sort of just did that as well. So as soon as we come back from the break. And no, we've not got like a specific was a preview for the next game. So September is going to be crucial, because from what I've just seen, every single one of these games as a was it like was it as a was it like was it as a winnable game. So the first game back, 16th of September, you've got Aberdeen at home. Yeah, tough test, but like again,
Should
the
be.
fact as
Should
well
be.
that they'll like they have was it the group stage was football. Take advantage of that. Take full advantage of that, and to get them like again throughout every game we've said from the very start, right? Drive it, but how much hope we'll have with that, like, was it remains was it to be seen. Then after that, on the 23rd, we've got Sisson Minnan away. Yeah, like a tough place to actually go, but very winnable as well. Obviously we've got the quarterfinals of the League Cup that can go either way, but we'd like to think that we want to actually be like sort of the and that was the competition as well. Then Ross said the county away again. Like I mean, we could probably say this like about every like away game we go to, but again, very winnable game. To take advantage of September is absolutely key because obviously, at when we started the pod again for this year, the run of games throughout October is fucking scary. So obviously,
I know.
um we've got the first the derby at home on the 7th of October on and then it has a 2 week break, so I'm going to naturally assume that that's another international break. Then we've got Celtic on the 21st at home. Then we've got Rangers away on the 28th of October. So that month could be a really shitty month. But
Mhm.
as I said, Alan, those the games that you just mentioned there throughout, like this month after we come back from the and our national break. How key is it? Even though, as I said, it is still relatively early in the season, how key is it that we try to take maximum points from all these games? I don't care, like, was it after home or like away. If it's not the old firm or not Hibs, even, like, you know what I mean? Like, surely there's
Yeah.
got to be some big fat boot that needs to be fucking wicking kinging in the arse of every
Mhm.
player on that pitch to say what the fuck is going on. And
Yeah.
you know, you can like yeah, like I do understand as well, like as you said at the start as well, well the patience is a key thing. Like it's a new management team, new with players as well, new system granted. But at the same time as well, we all say that for any new player in any new was system as well, they've got to act fast. And it's not as if
Yeah.
they've not had a preseason to actually try this was a system as well. So
Yeah.
your thoughts
Yeah.
for this month, mate?
Well, I think just sort of touch on that last thing that you said about, players need time in a new system. We've said the likes of Vargas and Tagawa, obviously two important players that were brought in for the forward line.
Mm,
They were brought in very late in pre-season
mm,
and didn't get much of a chance to
yeah.
settle and bed in. So, that falls again, get your business done as early as you can and have a better preseason. Because I don't think our preseason was particularly good at all, to be honest. Not just results, because nobody gives a toss about
No.
results, but the games just seem to be kind of thrown together rather than actually properly planned. But yeah, the next run of fixtures after the international break are massive. We have to put this start away. Like it's funny because I was actually just going to say as well, after today's game, I've just seen quotes on the BBC website, and I don't know if it was Naismith or McAvoy because it could be either of them, to be honest. It says it's been the same after every European game we've played. We've come into a game at the weekend with lethargic, slow play and given away cheap goals. It's been consistent over these games. We've highlighted it, but it's a mentality thing. Like, if you're talking about poor mentality 4 weeks into the season domestically, that's a shambles.
I'm sorry,
Like,
Alan, but like just to add to that as well, you know, like as we was said as well, yeah, like it can't just fall at one person's feet, but as a manager, that's your job.
no,
That's
exactly,
your
exactly.
that's your job. If it has to come down to the group,
Yeah,
was it speeches or was it management? That's their job to sort that out.
of course it is. Of course it is. And then, like something we haven't even touched on, but something I'm sure you'll be very keen to talk about was a certain Mr. Andy Halliday, apparently having conversations with the management team to clarify his role in the squad.
Well, mate, like I
And
mean, look, like just to top on that as well. Like, yeah, like was it was it like I'm not gonna rant here as well, but
No, no, feel free.
but just for the performances that we've seen in the middle of the park, and that has also been a recurring theme as well. There's no was it a creative outlet in the center of that park. Yeah, well, the Cammy Devlin's been great, but there's only one particular thing he does well is to get the ball back and the attack. But when
Yeah,
people, but when even it wasn't the best performance, but even to have was it Haring in was it in the center of the park was it a delightful thing to see.
yeah,
So like try anything. I'm not
yeah,
asked about was it having players in to fit them all in. Like you know what I mean? If it means trying
yeah,
something different, having a bit of new blood in there. You know what I mean? I mean, I can understand
yeah,
where Halliday's was they're coming from, but at the same time, like the squad will revert throughout the season as well.
yeah.
Whether it's down to the bad performances, was injuries, whatever. His time will come. Don't chew about it. And the Daniel McIver's triggering me, please. It's not nice, especially online. Not nice, man.
I think that's it though. I think like you said about Halliday, like I'm not saying he's the answer.
No,
I
no, no,
don't
no,
think he is.
absolutely
I think
not.
he's far from the answer.
No.
However, he has every right to question why he's not getting more minutes when he sees a centre back and a left back being played in midfield ahead of him. So that was kind of my situation, and I
Yeah.
just kind of wanted to put the Andy Halliday name out there because you've not mentioned him yet, and I think
No,
the
no,
the
no.
management team forgot he's existed until he went and knocked on their door and was like, "I mind me."
Just for the banner, I might just put him. Was it was it like in the thumbnail? Just for shits and gigs, like, can you know what I mean?
Go on then.
Yeah, man.
No, like we're talking about like the games to come and stuff. The thing is, the international break is now obviously
Yeah,
comes at a good time, but also not a good time. The one positive is obviously I think we've got the Xander and Lauren Shankland are away for Scotland. I think the Aussies are away, but I'm not
yeah.
sure if it's now. I saw they got called up for a squad, but I don't know if the Australians are playing as well. And Vargas as well,
Yeah.
away with Costa Rica. So there is quite a few players away on international duty, which is maybe not a bad thing, because Kai Rolls, and this is something I'll mention now that we're talking about international breaks. When Kai Rolls got selected in the Australia squad, the post on Twitter from the Socceroos official account was full of Hearts fans going, "Have you been watching Kai Rolls recently? Have you been watching him recently? Like,
Mm.
really? You're going to call him up?" The thing is that you know certain defenders work better in certain systems, and
Maybe, yeah.
Kai Rolls maybe works very well for Australia because he continuously gets called up and played. It's the same with Natty Atkinson.
Mm.
So they're not necessarily bad players because they're
No,
not.
of
I
course
don't. I
not.
don't think we've got bad players at Hearts, to be honest, aside from Alex Lowry, but he's not ours.
You know.
Yeah, don't even,
I won't.
don't
I
even go
won't.
there.
I won't.
I'm biting my tongue on Alex Lowry in the hope that he's walking back to Ibrox as we speak. Um, Horrendous. Anyway, yeah, what was I saying? I think like we need to be a bit kind of understanding sometimes. Like again, I was sat at the game today and Kai Rolls went down with a head knock and there was a guy a few seats away from me that said, "I hope he breaks his fucking neck and it's a career-ending injury."
Wow.
So if you are that fan and you're listening to this, I hope your next shite is a hedgehog. Simple as that. Um, I can't be dealing with
Nah,
that.
man. No,
I
that's
I
that's
can't be
just
dealing with
like
that.
I mean, like
And we talk about reacting after defeats and stuff. And obviously, I've come on and had a rant after that horrendous performance, but not a single player on that park in maroon gets pass marks today. Not a single person in that dugout gets pass marks today,
no.
because they were simply not good enough. Which is why the international breaks probably come at quite a good time for the club. It's like, do you know what? What's done is done. The early form of the season, juggling the European games. Yes, it's an excuse, but there is an element of truth to it because it was exactly the same last year. Are we ready for 2 games a week? Doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
But Scottish football as well, and I'll just say this before I hand it back to you. Scottish football, the biggest positive that we have is that Scottish football on its day, anyone can take points off of anyone.
Mm.
We've seen that today. Hibs beat Aberdeen today as well, which is frustrating as hell, but they've done that despite the garbage start to the season that they had. So yes, it's early days, but we something needs to be done. Something needs to change, and they all just need to go away and have a look at themselves. And I think the players going away on international duty, it's maybe quite a good time to not be at Hearts and not think about club football for a bit.
Possibly, yeah. And yeah, like when you put it into context like that, yeah, you are probably right. The international break maybe has came at a good time. And as always, guys, like we're going to leave it on that note, and we would love to hear all your comments, all your feedback on the game and the podcast as well. What do you think has to change? Like in terms of
Easy
the
out.
system, in
Easy out.
terms of the squad. Does anybody want to to pay the train fare for the Glasgow to take was it Alex Lowry back to Ibrox from Alan personally?
Give me petrol money. I'll take them myself.
And do I was it and since as we're seeing was it fullbacks and was it like an essential midfield role? Would you like to start like a petition to see Andy Halliday replace Lawrence Shankland up front and centre? We would love to hear that as well. So yeah, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you very much for wanting this ranting episode of the Since I Was Young podcast, episode 91. As we said at the start, if you want to get in contact with us, all of our socials are all in the description. As we also said as well, we don't know what we're going to do for next week. We could do like a question and answer with the podcast. We could possibly see about getting somebody on or some faces on as well, and we could just have an hour-long episode of scenarios game as well. That could be a fun episode, Alan. We're gonna.
I've lined up a few to be fair. I've lined up a few to be fair, but I don't feel like today is
on
the.
my parade, Alan. Don't you dare to be dazed to just to come up with the title, mate. Leave me alone.
Can I have an alternative universe where Alex Lowry is not at heart?
God, against the young boy, mate. Honestly, he's done hardly anything
empty
wrong.
Jersey, mate. Empty jersey.
And on that note, we shall see you in the next one, guys. And as we said as well, please fire away all your comments and we will reply to them in due course. So we do hope you have a good rest from Club Football, and we will see you in the next one. You all take care. Bye for now.